My. It seems your narrator, Josh III, is still conked out. But fear not. I do not mind continuing to cover for him until he awakens from his prolonged rest. Butlers such as I should be a jack of all trades of sorts, at least ones that serve gods. Therefore, at the start of the last game session, Market Day came to a close early as Milady Dea's miraculous rain painted the scene fittingly dreary. Becky, the parchment seller, expressed gratitude for the party's help with the wasps, and gave Mimith a special artist's book that feels oh so satisfying to paint on compared to other typical parchments. And from a distance, our party, the Fallen's Fellowship, witnessed an elderly dragonborn gentleman struggling to get his shop stall and supplies inside quickly out of the rain. Thus, rushing to his aid, Mimith and Thotham arrived at the scene.
Careful, sir, you might hurt your back. We can help you carry this in.
Yeah, please spare yourself. We'll get this done quickly.
Thotham gave his confident assurance, and yet still somehow clearly not aware just how easy as he lifted the table swiftly and far too high for either of the Dragonborns, as all the porcelain started to slide down, threatening to scull this elderly gent as he started to flail nervously. But thankfully a combination maneuver from Mimith jumping up to slam dunk the high end of the table back down, as Tarthelemu simultaneously ran his little rabbit form under the table to lift up the opposite side to establish equilibrium again. The fine china all remaining intact minus minor spillage.
Oops! Sorry, I guess I'm used to more, solid structures built for Goliaths.
You're a green dragon!
Gribble pointed excitedly at his fellow draconic kin. As this gentleman introduced himself as Yuin and correctly validated my young master, patting his head while stating that Gribble will be as big a dragon as him someday. But oh, little does he or anyone else know that my young master will far surpass that size. After the party inquired with Yuin about Donnery the beekeeper's concern of his overconsumption of honey, well, it became quickly evident to the party that Yuin has a big crush on her. And there was nothing the party was going to be able to say or do that would make him quit Donnery's honey.
Excuse me, sir. I know you just wrapped up your shop stall here, but if you don't mind, I'd love a cup of tea to pair with this strange rain we just got. You know how it is with stiff, achy joints and all, and of course, I'm happy to pay.
Yuin brimmed a toothy smile as he poured a prideful glass for Tarth, Yuin going on to espouse about the monkey-picked Julong tea harvested in the Condoro jungle, tossing the harangue on a lemon to provide a citrus accent to the floral aroma.
And while we're here, Yuin, we'd also like to ask you a few questions regarding the sickness in town, as well as the death of Irayeza.
Before that, though, sir, this lemon you just gave me already has a bite taken out of it? That's kinda gross.
This comment sent Mr. Yuin in a panic, as he swiftly grabbed the lemon back and tossed it into the trash behind him, guarding his body over the bin while frantically apologizing. His behavior seemed sketchy, to say the least. Tarth went into full cop mode. Long story short, after tearing the place apart and finding Yuin's journal, where we need not rehash all those unsavory details, there's nothing wrong with an old man with a healthy libido and a gag ball lemon. Being secretive about how he coordinates his self-touch time is more than understandable. Our roguish Eladrin ever so kindly cut off a foot of her rope to leave for the old man as an alternative for the lemons. As Mimith had to contemplate the weight of her impulsive decision earlier to dust off the gentleman's ceiling fan. One man's trash is another's treasure after all. As a side note, I'd like to give my apologies to the small lurker audience we've accumulated on this channel. Trust me when I say that I'm doing you a favor by not expounding further on the player party's discovery. You're quite welcome. Anywho, Thotham casted Detect Poison, just to clear the bases, and the whole room was brightly lit. A poisonous aerosol lingered in the air. The wasp sting welts on Lux and Gribble's faces shimmered, all because the world of DnD stupidly doesn't separate poisons from venoms. Tarthelemu himself was entirely lit up like a damn glow stick. After passing a check, Thotham realized the poisonous aerosol in the air was nothing to worry about. Yuin is a green dragonborn. He always releases some low level of poison, much like Mimith will always have chilled breath. What was interesting was the spell leading to multiple inventory items. Most curiously, Donnery's honey Mimith had purchased.
Aha! We gotta go back to Donnery's before the spell ends.
The Fallen's Fellowship bolted in the rain to return to Donnery's shop, bypassing Bruce and Yuin on the way to briefly inform that the coast was clear for him to return home, his secret safe with the Fallen's Fellowship. And then, upon entering the beekeeper's house, our cleric went wide-eyed.
Yup, I think I definitely found what we're looking for.
I knew she was a bitch all along.
I quite appreciate Miss Moonswarm's jealous dedication to my young master. She clearly has refined taste, and her possessiveness quite fondly reminds me of Milady Dea. But as for our cleric Thothum, he could see about 1 in 4 stashed honey jars glowed far brighter than others. It was evident Donnery wasn't fully aware her honey was poisoned, and that she wasn't deliberately scheming to hurt anyone. But
Oh, gods, what will the authorities do to me? This stupid hobby. I only took it up to better connect with my daughter after she left me here alone to go live closer with her damn druidic father. Damn it, I've never been into this stupid hobby. It takes so much work. How was I supposed to figure this out? I mean, sure, I had received reports my honey was very bitter, but I couldn't risk losing my place as #1 shopkeeper in this village. Everyone likes and counts on my honey. And once I started mixing a bunch of sugar into the batches, the complaints stopped. Everything seemed fine. I didn't know. I couldn't know. I didn't mean to hurt anybody. I work so hard, and I'm always thinking of others. I can't believe this is happening to me. It was just an innocent misunderstanding.
my, what a stunningly selfish, short-sighted, opportunistic, and defensively self-congratulatory petite bourgeoise we have here. Now, very amusing.
You didn't stop to think for a minute that the bitterness might be a sign the honey was contaminated.
Letting me down big time.
Wait, I think you guys are being too hard on her. She is pacing here, bawling her eyes out with remorse. She said herself she didn't mean for it to happen like this. Take it easy on her.
More like a continual and suspiciously convenient lapse of judgment, if you ask me. Let us not forget. She was the one that sent us to speak to Yuin about diabetes, let alone how Donnery was accidentally upselling to the very people she made sick, convincing them the honey would help them through their ailment, while fully knowing that it wouldn't, because it's just a bunch of goddamn sugar.
And now several people are dead. She may not have deliberately killed anyone, but she knowingly put her self-interest first, leaving families with grief and years of confusion. Even now, I'm not exactly convinced Donnery is actually feeling guilty, or just sorry for herself. Either way, deliberating moral dilemmas just gives me a headache. So, I'll let you guys sort out what to do here. I bow to the majority. I'm gonna go check on the bees and make sure they're okay.
As Tartholomew made his way outback, he saw that the bees were fine. They were just inebriated off the mad honey they were producing. That's a real kind of honey in the player's world that contains greyanotoxins. It's produced from the concentrated nectar and pollen of the rhododendron genus of plants. In real life, mad honey is difficult to find, and even then rarely fatal. It's often sought after for its hallucinogenic effects. However, in these elderly people who are chronically overusing the honey, it resulted in fatal doses on their already fragile systems, especially when coupled with the excess sugar Donnery was adding in. That sweet refined nightmare, while in the bloodstream, hinders the white blood cells' ability to eliminate harmful microbes. So secondary ailments developing alongside this poison became more likely from Donnery's woeful decisions. Thankfully, the Fallen's Fellowship was able to do what the police couldn't. But before our party could call its case closed, there was still one more thread itching at the back of Tartholomew's mind.
Hey folks, the bees are fine. Just more stoned than I am, if you can believe that. But something still isn't quite sitting right with me. I can't celebrate yet until I close out this hunch I have about Nurse Mortalia. I was pretty positive that there's something about Iraya's death she was hiding from us.
The rest of the party explained they decided to punt the decision-making regarding Donnery's fate over to poor townsman Bruce, which is actually unintentionally leaving the decision to the DM to solve on her own. And oh boy, if you think there isn't going to be some kind of story price to be paid for scapegoating your duties, well, you are sorely mistaken. But that remains to be seen later. After the party filled in Tarth, they joined him in confronting Nurse Mortalia. First, explaining to her what they had learned regarding the honey as her eyes went wide.
So it was a poison affecting the village after all, and not a curse or virus?
It seems no one suspected the honey because Donnery and Ewan have poison resistance. Sheila does not have poison resistance, but she never consumed the honey due to some kind of medical issue. So while she did purchase things from Donnery, it was always non-edible items. Between my diagram and Thotham's detection of poison, it was all pretty simple. If only cops were competent, clerics weren't in shortage, and if only this village wasn't poor, this would have been solved far sooner.
The party tried roundabout ways to prod Nurse Mortalia, but failed their collective checks to get her to budge. It was evident that she was entirely clueless about the honey, but she was also very dodgy in how she answered questions regarding Iraeza. Having enough of the back and forth, the Fallen's Fellowship ordered her to step back as they would tear through the very clinic this nurse has been a painfully long time trying to treat her dying patients in. Seeming conflicted and hurt, she stormed off and Thotham followed her out.
Please, just leave me alone for now. I do not wish to be followed. I'm just going for a walk just outside of the village.
I can't risk a defenseless victim and her daughter not being able to get justice if you are guilty and trying to run. To be honest, Mortalia, your behavior isn't giving me much faith in your innocence.
I see. It really is a black and white world after all. Very well then.
Thus, a push to her brink during a fearful moment, Mortalia bolted to try and chase her own peace, and Thotham was determined to chase her. The DM didn't have this outcome prepped, but the first rule was 3 rounds to catch or convince Nurse Mortalia to stop, or else something would happen. And on the 3rd round, after she succeeded against Thotham's hold person spell DC, welp, bang! As she plopped into the stones and her brains bled out into the sands.
Holy shit, well, I take that to mean she was guilty then? Is this justice? A life for a life? Did I mess up? Am I gonna get in trouble for this?
No worries, dear Thotham, you're not in trouble. But oh ho, you are the bad guy here. Between Bruce's clear instructions and the demonstrated Ewan scenario, those were the in-game warnings from the DM to disincentivize jumping to cop mode. So much for innocent until proven guilty, eh? Seriously, how far would a hypothetically wanted elderly woman with no family get in a desert with no supplies, especially as a marginalized tiefling? Mortalia really did just want alone time to ruminate her likely fate before coming back to face whatever you all would decide. Nonetheless, though, you had no way of knowing what was going on in her head. This mess went in the complete opposite direction from Thotham's past resounding success back in the Panlore arc. Watching a 7-foot-something, bear smiting Goliath trying and failing to restrain a small elderly woman would be disturbing to most audiences. Thankfully, Thotham didn't have any witnesses aside from me, the narrator. And personally, I found that shit fucking hilarious. Worry not, Thotham. Your punishment for acting like a filthy pig was already realized with the tragic self-execution of Nurse Mortalia, and thus making a bunch of old people sad. Boo-hoo. Thank you for amusing us immortals in these trying times. As Thotham picked up Mortalia's limp-dripping body and walked back, the rest of the party found a written confession that while treating Iraeza for the very sickness they were brought here to solve, Isabella's mother was clearly suffering and pleading for Mortalia to put her out of her misery. Mortalia couldn't handle watching another patient agonizingly suffer. And I do mean that literally. She couldn't mentally handle any more screams. Mortalia snapped and suffocated her with a pillow. Ever since, the nurse was seesawing, wondering if she did the merciful thing or the murderous thing. She wanted to quit her job, but it was unlikely this village could afford a different on-site nurse, let alone one willing to risk getting sick. Was she being kind by remaining and willing to let herself keep suffering for their sake? Or was she selfish for remaining despite clearly not being mentally fit to carry out the duties of the job anymore? Well, lucky for the party, they didn't have to contemplate these questions like she had to. This dilemma was unintentionally resolved by pushing her to take the rest she direly needs, permanently. The village was shocked with grief upon Thorthum's return. Bruce especially, who was closest to Mortalia. They spent many late nights together trying to rack their brains over how to solve this deadly mystery. The village quickly put together a memorial over the couple days awaiting for authorities to arrive and handle the body. Mimith contributed a most beautiful portrait that truly captured the empathy that Mortalia carried for all of her patients here.
Wow, what a stunning portrait. I feel like I'm looking right at Mortalia and can actually say goodbye. You're a very talented young lady, and a strong one too. You don't get all those muscles just from painting, do you?
Said an elderly halfling woman the party had yet to meet. The last in the village, Sheila. She was dressed in cozy wool knits, dyed in warm pastel hues, and her smile was just as warm as she beamed over Mimith's talents, trying to find a silver lining within the melancholy.
Thank you and no. Painting is just how I relax and express myself, but otherwise I'm a fighter. I'm really sorry for you and everyone's loss. I wish there was more I could do to help you all.
It's certainly shocking, but at my age, well, you get used to death. I'm unfortunately well acquainted with dark themes like this. Of course, that doesn't make the loss any less real, but what's to be done? May the gods bless her Esper, and the rest of us remember that any day could be our last.
Good advice. I certainly take that mantra to heart. It's obvious Nurse Mortalia's efforts were deeply appreciated here by everyone, and that she cared for this village. But pardon me for changing the subject. I wanted to ask you, Sheila, is there any chance you're related to Sari from Tequula's Silk Touch shop? I just noticed your shop name here is the same as hers, and you're both halflings.
Oh my, that's my daughter. Wait, you must be the young lad that's been keeping her company all this time. Yes, a Harengon adventurer, and the Goliath who sweetly sewed an orange cat plushie for a child. What a wonderful surprise. Oh, and what of the cloak? Did you gift the cloak to your other party mate yet?
Good timing. I just recently gave it to her. Hey, Lux. Would you mind doing a little modeling session of the cloak for me?
Why, certainly.
Ariladrin said as she performed a roguish pirouette. The two-tone cloak slowly whisked around her spinning form in the desert breeze, most elegantly.
That is such a stunning piece of work, and suitable for such a stunning woman, of course. I heard you hammered off the mica from baskets of rocks under cool moonlight in order to give it the inner lining the function to change colour, depending on the temperature. That's a very old and very laborious technique. I'm so impressed and a tiny bit jealous. Tell me, for just how long have you two been a couple?
Sorry, but it's not like that.
What? No way! All that passionate late-night work he put was just a friendly gift. But young lady, the way your face lights up while wearing that cloak. I'm old and nostalgic for my younger days, but I don't think I'm going senile just yet.
All right. I'll give it to you. You're pretty sharp, Sheila. You caught us red-handed. We're actually all together. We're a pentuple.
Tarth said while leaning back against Thorthum's leg, comfortably nonchalant as he took a suave drag of his pipe, and Thorthum nodded his head proudly to play along.
My, oh my! Well then, I suppose modern times truly have surpassed me. Perhaps if I was younger I'd be interested in such a thing, but that sounds like a lot of work, is it not? How do you all keep each other happy?
It is a lot of work, but more people means more help.
It can get bumpy, but we always manage to work things out together.
By some strange miracle, I suppose.
Excuse me! I am not in a pentuple with you all! I am way too young for that!
Geez, Gribble. I didn't say you're the fifth member in the pentuple. Obviously, that place is for Salzarbad, but you're still a member of our family nonetheless.
That is also completely disgusting!
My poor young master needing to put up with the impulsive antics of this wily Harengon, when he is too focused on other problems right now to need to be worrying about relationships. And speaking of problems, after our false pentuple parted ways with a blushing Miss Sheila, they returned to the home of Eriza to rest, which is when Gribble remembered something important and tugged on Lux's cloak.
I'm sorry! I was too tired the other day to explain!
But while you guys were helping the Montefiore kid, I went with Twitty to a festival. And while there, her weird true sight thingy-majiggy caught onto an evil aura. Yeah, something like that. We started to stalk the evil aura thingy, but the trail went cold. The last place we could detect their presence was on the prize plushies of this weird game stall shooting bottles. I wanted to just burn the whole thing down. But you guys weren't around to bail me out of jail if I got caught. So I had to win this stupid dog prize. Anyway, you have a sharp eye for traps. Lux, can you check it out for me? Please?
And indeed, via plushie dissection, as the player party leaned in closely curious about this evil aura thingy, a delayed activation spell scroll was revealed inside the fluff. Its contents were set to burst into flames on the eve of the celebratory winter solstice in 1 month's time. It plainly states the intent to harm and kill children. Signed by the most infamous gang in this region, the Bleeding Silks. The very gang the party learned way back in Zambia that they were the #1 purchasers of the organs that were being harvested from innocent servants. This is the same gang responsible for the water shortages in the region that has enraged and threatened the life of the ancient basilisk, and now this gang is trying to stealthily arson children. What in the 9 hells could their ultimate goal be? Especially considering this was no ordinary evil aura. Master Gribble left out the part that this aura was tied to a god-touched individual. Despite the late evening hour, the party ran to inform their overseeing fixer, Mariah Shredguard. As they explained, a deep personal fire burned in her eye. A type of rage so deep it would seem she has much more than just a lost election to hold against this gang, as her lips snarled with hate.
Curse those damned silks. Their evil knows no bottom floor. I swear we'll make them pay. Thank you for bringing this to me. It will be a lot of work for the authorities to try and track down anyone who visited or worked at the festival. But that's a headache Chancellor Osiris deserves to suffer with. You did good, young man. You have a keen sense to you. I was skeptical of a child being on your team, but I see now that may have been rash judgment. Well, if not for the wasp incident, that is.
Mrs. Shredguard, respectfully, ma'am. If this Bleeding Silks gang has anything to do with that passion project you mentioned the other day, I'd strongly like to express on behalf of myself and my party mates here that we would feel more than eager and honored to take on that job.
Yeah, concurred. We have our own bones we'd like to pick with the Silks over.
They are a smaller part of the overall reason that ended up inspiring our party name.
Psst. I assume tangoing with the most notorious gang in the region would likely mean a high-priced reward.
Yup! Cha-ching! Let me at 'em! I'll blow them up!
While I do appreciate your collective enthusiasm for dismantling the Silks, but even after this mission, you will still have some time before I can hire you. But we shall see where I am at with my passion project once you are finally enrolled with the Adventurers League, which I have no doubts that you will be able to achieve. And I look forward to hearing how you all learn and grow in the meantime. You did well with this mission, and you solved the problem far faster than expected. But alas, you also made very careless mistakes. You all got too strangely paranoid and sidetracked right from the start of this gig. Then you were a bit overzealous with the authority granted to you. Listen closely. If you can't keep composure, maintain a clear head and sharp analysis when confronting the Bleeding Silks, then you will lose your head to them. They have members that far outpace your abilities and experience. It's not enough to desire to do good and bulldoze your way through by sheer force of will. Not when dealing with their caliber of villainy. This is why you are still considered in training. You might be better than other rookies, but your current state is fodder compared to the Bleeding Silks. If you can't rely on one another to stay focused and make wise decisions, you will die to them. These aren't street thugs, they're organized. Do you understand this?
A bit like lectured children, the party slightly grimaced, but nonetheless accepted the valid criticism with grace and took the warning to heart. They all left to return to their quarters to tuck in and finally go to sleep. Only for Miss Lux to have her trance disturbed. Snapping out of her trance upon realizing her dominant hand had fallen numb, now looking around her, she seemed to have absent-mindedly emptied out her inventory. Her hand still clasped around a fluid-filled jar found at the very bottom of her bag.
What the hell was I doing just now? Wait a minute. This is the Mitomai supplements I stole from Zambu? I forgot I even had these.
Bartholomew, who creepily always sleeps with at least one eye open, was the first awoken by Lux's surprise, the party starting to exhaustingly stir awake one by one after he announced himself.
Hey, everything all right over there, Lux? You seem spooked.
I think so. Something strange was happening to me, I think. Like I was unconsciously drawn to this jar of the twisted cordies I snagged from Zambeyu. You remember these, right?
I barely remember last week, let alone a couple months ago, but I think we should get rid of that jar right away.
Hey now, let's not be too hasty, Gribble. This could be a sign of Zugtmoy trying to diplomatically reach out to us.
That just sounds like another reason to throw it away, dude.
Can't we have one normal night when we're all together?
That wouldn't be normal then. I'd suspect something was up.
Lux, you felt the same inner voice from Zugtmoy earlier during that weird episode, right? How she wants us to try and understand her. This could be our chance, even if just for intel.
Yes, but I don't know if that necessarily means that we should try. At least, not specifically in this very moment, you know?
No, we definitely should not do that now, and not ever!
You definitely should at least consider it. Even if not right at this moment, the jar could hold some value to us later. I'd hate to throw away a lucky boon of insight you fatefully grabbed for us Lux when we don't have another source of this stuff.
No! The jar is just gonna try and possess her again! And if it's successful next time, then what? What if she gets hurt?
I never said Lux had to be the one to drink it. If that's the problem, then I gladly volunteer.
Absolutely not, Tarth. You're the person out of all of us that needs to be kept the furthest away from Zugtmoy's influence.
Wow! I'm hearing so many reasons for us to just throw this damn jar away!
Guys, I'm too tired for this. Please just make up your minds so we can all go back to sleep.
I'm
drinking
tossing
it right now.
My young master and the wily Harangun locked competitive gazes before both lunging for the jar in front of Miss Luthien. She acrobatically tumbled out of the way as the jar spun out on the floor. Bartholomew reached the jar first, rudely holding it above his head, away from Gribble's poor struggling reach. That's cruel thing for one short man to do to another. How very cold and inelegant of you. But as the Harangon de-lidded the jar, about to pour it down his throat, my young master Gribble sent me flying to smack it out this troublemaker's paws. The jar stunningly landed base down, retaining most of the old musty fluid. Bartholomew leapt again, but my young master expertly swiftly kicked his furry, filthy hand, knocking the jar out of it, the contents now spilling all over the floor, to which chaos excited Salzarabad, as now the wooden sporehound ran to lap up the forbidden fluids.
Shit, don't drink that!
My genius young master's casting of bonfire right over the puddle helped evaporate the twisted cordy fluids, Tarth reaching Salzarabad just in time for the pup to not get caught in the blaze. But the fire filled the room with smoke as the alarm started to blare off.
All right. Everyone shuffle yourselves out until the smoke clears up. I'll open the window and get this put out.
The party shamefully stood outside in the early morning, as other village residents raised their skeptical brows at the scene being awoken even earlier than normal for them.
Tarth, even Gribble had more sense and maturity than you did back there. Salzarbad could have gotten hurt by that. This is exactly the thing Miss Shredguard was lecturing us about.
I know, and you're right. I was feeling a little desperate, and I feel bad, of course. Knowledge is power. And for all we know, we just wasted a single opportunity at obtaining another puzzle piece that could have helped us all.
or we just narrowly escaped our collective demise, and you should thank me for saving you.
I don't know. I kinda wanted to see what would happen just a tiny bit. Oh well, I guess, but I am proud of you, Gribble. You really showed him. Good job.
Not to deliberately stir up more weird shit, folks, but, Tarth, what's up with the feathers, dude?
The party moved their exhausted gazes to Tarth's chest. The veinous vine bulging from the creature egg that Yaga embedded inside his chest is now sprouting bird feathers. Just as Tarth noticed, a fierce pain overtook him, remarking how it felt like a claw was scratching at his heart. In fact, everyone in the party underwent some changes that evening. They leveled up, which means their fate threads in the universe have become stronger with the likelihood of impacting the world's destiny. That or their mycorrhizae infections have augmented. My young master's eyes beamed as wide and cute as ever after announcing he was starting to grow in dragon horns, as Miss Lux knelt beside him and traced her thumbs over the parallel bumps on his forehead. She was happy for Gribble's happiness, but now starting to introspect more about what these developments could be. During this game, my young master asked me when he would be allowed to tell his party mates his identity as Dea's champion, to which my advice was that he wait until the party is close enough to each other, where he can truly trust that he knows each of them and their pasts well, and trust them with his own life. Knowledge of Master Gribble's champion is deadly information after all, mate. It's bad enough Heckmar and Zuktmoy already found out. I just hope you all can get to that point before it becomes too obvious the stakes you all are truly facing. But no worries, young master. There's plenty of time for that to develop before things get too intense. You yourself have not yet come to understand what Milady Dea's focus for you even is, but you'll see. I have faith that once you learn more of the world, you'll be more than up for the aerial challenge that we need you for. Until then, just make sure you're using Milady Dea's name publicly twice as much as Thothum does Tears, and you'll stay in her good favor.
Oh god. Why the hell do I feel like I just woke up from a train wreck?
Mr. Narrator, you did just wake up from a short coma, but welcome back. I helped take over while you were out, but my goddess calls to me now, so I shall leave this to you again, dear sir. Take care.
Wait, I don't remember anything. What am I even supposed to be saying right now?
Yeah, just read this to them and you'll be good as new again by the next summary. And once in a great while I'll come back and give you another break when there's more godly lore to commentate on. Until then, tata for now.
Oh, okay. Bye, Renrev. Thanks for all your help. Now let's see here. Hehem. And that essentially concluded the mission Something or Nothing. By the way, despite the mission's blemish for punting the moral dilemma to the DM, it won't be so bad thanks to your extra efforts in helping heal the relationship between Becky and Frank, so no need to sweat so much over them. Also, please, don't beat yourselves up over not getting perfect results. How else are your characters supposed to grow as people? With that aside, on to our next mission. Finally, Casting Call. You already technically collected the written quest from Halil Aziz before we had to jumble our mission order around for Gribble's absence. And Mariah already paid you during our last game, so we can jump right into this at the start of our next session. The requester's name is Leah. She details the mission in a written note as follows.
Hello there. We're in need of 5 adventurous volunteers to help impress an audience with a convincing performance. At least one of you needs to be very attractive, one very short, and one dragonborn. But all 5 of you should have some kind of passable vibe of strong and adventurous to you. We only have one shot to make this happen, and we have to make it count. Especially whichever of you ends up playing the lead role. Acting experience is a big jumbo plus, but totally not required because, to be honest, we're desperate. As for the winning conditions, look, even if you fail, which, oh my god, please don't fail. Regardless, you will be walking away from the day of the event utterly pampered. Gorgeous new formal clothing, amazing ceremonial weapons, a full belly of gourmet food, and as drunk as you want from an open bar after the big event. The winning conditions otherwise are simply to do all of the little tasks that will ultimately help you put on a convincing performance together. All this free stuff is why the reward is only a measly 10 gold. But there is potential for more prizes if you can, by some miracle, get the audience to love you too. That part definitely isn't required. It's a tough crowd we're dealing with, folks, so have some thick skin. But I believe in you before we even meet. So chin up and let's try to have fun with it. Please arrive with a positive and open-minded attitude. Knock on our door, Suite 114 at Pyra's Paradise after lunchtime, and I will be happy to go over the extensive and totally exciting details with you and the other cast members. The three of us can't wait to meet you, so please don't get cold feet. See you soon!